Hey guys, Rahul here with Team Raj Jaggi. Today we're going to bring you everything you need to know about downsizing. What I'm going to be going over today is I'm going to be going over this free report that you're going to have access to after this video. You click the link below, or you can just listen to the whole thing. So what we have today is we're going to have is 5 questions to ask yourself before you're ready to make the move. Is downsizing even right for you? As you know, downsizing is a huge industry in real estate, and a lot of people oftentimes do it. Why is that? Oftentimes people will buy homes that they outgrow. More often than not, an average American's moving every 7 years or so. Yep, you heard that right. Every 7 years or so, what usually ends up happening is people's needs, their requirements, just the job or whatever changes, and all of a sudden it's time to move. And more often than not, what we're seeing is a lot of people, initially they buy their first-time home buyer home, then they upgrade, they get a bigger home, then they usually buy their dream home, and then the fourth home that these sellers or buyers are usually buying is usually the downsizing home. So today what I'm going to be doing is going over the 5 questions you must ask yourself before you decide that you want to downsize, because it is actually a major decision and there's a lot of situations and expectations. And what we're going to do with this video is we're going to help you understand the lifestyle, and is this something that makes sense for you financially, and when you should do it, and when's the best time. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is, does it actually even make sense for me to downsize financially? This is something that you want to ask yourself before you make the move. Because oftentimes, just because you're getting into a smaller home doesn't actually mean that the cost of living is going to be any cheaper. Reason is, a payment for a house includes not just your mortgages, it includes your HOA, your maintenance, your taxes, and stuff like that. So what I mean is, let's say I own a house that's 4,000 square feet and I'm paying $1 million for it. And I want to downsize into a home that's maybe 2,000 square feet, but it's in a different neighborhood, a little bit more posh, a little bit more convenient, and now end up paying $850 for this. So now, even though, yes, I'm decreasing in price for the house, it's possible that my interest rate and everything, my payment could be more. Also, let's say if now I'm moving to a gated community and there's HOA fees attached, this would really impact my buying power. Other things that, yes, utilities and stuff will definitely decrease when you get into a smaller house or a smaller area. But just understand that it's not always necessarily true that just going into a smaller house will you actually save money. Maybe you have a really good interest rate and now that interest rate's not available on your new loan. So even though you're going into a smaller house, you have to make sure, is it financially secure? Other thing you want to make sure is what type of a downsize you want to do. Do you want to go into a condo, you want to go into a townhouse, or do you want to just buy a house and just have a little bit less land, a little bit less area? The other thing you want to check whenever you're doing this downsizing is you want to make sure, hey, can I afford to sell my house? More often than not, people that have bought their homes years and years ago, and this is our number 2, which is, can I afford to sell my current home when I'm downsizing? More often than not, what people have done is they bought these homes years and years ago. And since they bought them years and years ago, they've built a nice little equity or a nest in selling of their home. So more often than not, let's say if I sold you a house 5 years ago or 6 years ago, you should be up another 150, 200,000 on what you paid for it. So you can easily afford to sell that house, take the money, start a little bit of a savings, and move on ahead. Now, there are some people who have bought their homes at the peak of the peak, and those areas they never recovered. So now for those people, what they would likely have to do is they would likely have to either cover the mortgage split. So like, let's say I owe $500,000 on my house today, and in today's market it's only worth $450. Then they would have to pay that $50K out of their pocket in order to move. For most people like that, we do not actually recommend downsize. What we do recommend is that maybe you try short selling your house, and us at Team Raj Jaggi, we have systems that can help you guys with that. Other thing that really makes a huge difference when you're buying a house, which would be our number 3 question you want to ask, is how much living space do I really need? Understand that when it comes to layouts of homes and it comes to the type of home that you're living in, each house is different than another. So what I mean by that is, let's say it's a ranch. A 2,000 square foot ranch feels a lot bigger than a 2,000 square foot colonial. So what I mean by that is you want to see how the floor plans and stuff is laid out. Same thing when you're in the city, right? Like you could have an 1100 square foot apartment which is very segmented, and you could have an 1100 square foot apartment which is all open layout and it just feels huge. So this is something that I would really want to keep into consideration of how much living space do you actually need when you're going to be relocating into a new house. And then the layouts and stuff is very important, right? So like if you have issues with your knees, maybe you want everything on the one level. Maybe you care for a basement, maybe you don't. So there's all this other stuff that you want to make sure of what is going on when we are going to be relocating and downsizing. Let's say you're starting a new chapter in your life, and you know your kids are getting older, and now even though you do want to downsize, you want to make sure there's extra bedrooms and stuff available for them, so that you know all that stuff is available. Other thing you want to do when it comes to living space would be like checking out your lawn size, your maintenance. Like I personally love having a house with a pool. So for me, if I was to go get a house that didn't have space for a pool, I would likely have issues. And if you don't want to deal with any lawn maintenance or any of the other maintenance that are required when owning a property, maybe you want to look into townhouses or condos where there's a small HOA and that takes care of everything for you. Number 4 thing that I want to make sure when I'm downsizing is basically what I'm going to do with my possessions. My personal rule of thumb is that basically anything I haven't used or touched in the last 3 years, it is very unlikely I will use it or touch it in the next 3. So more often than not, I am someone who just ends up throwing out her stuff. However, not all people are like that. For some people, I just dealt with a family and they said, no, this is my grandparents' belongings, we have emotional sentimental values to it, so, and they didn't want to get rid of this couch which was, you know, almost falling apart. So what I would recommend is you really want to make sure of what you're planning on doing with the furniture. Are you going to tag sale it, get rid of it, or are you going to get a dumpster, get it out, or you're just going to maybe try to sell it? And that's definitely a real possibility. And then you want to definitely plan in advance how much time you have to do stuff like that. Because otherwise what's going to really happen is, let's say you have a 4,000 square foot home and now you want to move into a 2,000 square foot home. Your furniture size is for a 4,000 square foot home, and your 2,000 square foot home will feel cramped. That living space, which you know exactly how much of a living space you need, is actually going to feel very contracted. So you're going to feel like you're stuck and you're not going to be happy with you making the decision, which ultimately might be the right decision for you. Another option would be to basically rent out a storage. So, you know, they have the cold storages, they have other storage or a pod where you can actually leave your belongings. This would help you guys significantly, as technically you're still not getting rid of your old stuff and you are keeping it around. Last thing last, what I have over here, and this is our free report which is available online, is number 5, what you are most excited about. Whenever you end up going into this and you want to figure out why you're doing it, what we recommend is starting a advantage and a negative point of why you want to do it. Because more often than not, some people I've dealt with in the past, they want to downsize, but when they go into these smaller homes, they feel like they miss the bigger homes. Because to them, someone that's used to living in a bigger house, it's very tough to go and downsize, especially if you're not getting rid of your belongings and starting up new furniture and starting your life from scratch. So what I recommend doing is you want to do a positive and a negatives list. And then you want to do how often you use each things and how often you don't use it. So like what I mean by that is basically I would do positive and negatives. So positive, I want to be in this neighborhood. Negative, the house is too big for me, I can't clean it. Positive, I want a small yard which I can maintain. Negative, I don't want to pay the landscaper too much money, so that's why I'm moving from a big house to a smaller house, so just cutting costs. Other thing could be like maybe, oh, I don't want a big house because I can't go upstairs. So that's a negative, and a positive would be I need the bedroom on the main level, so that's why I want to downsize. And lastly, what I do recommend is start a list of how often you use each features of your home. So what I mean by that, if you use your pool figure out how many times in the summer you're using your pool. If you have a basketball court, figure out how many times you actually play on a basketball court in your house. And then you'll be able to understand, hey, is this a must need for me, or this is something that I want? How often do you go ahead and sit in your backyard? How often do you use your garage for parking a garage, for parking your car? How often do you use your basement? How often do you use your movie theater? All these things, when it comes to frequency and the utility of it, these are all the things that will make a huge impact on whether you should downsize or not. And lastly, best of all, just understand when you are downsizing, it is very much an emotional decision as well as a physical decision, and it can be very tough. So what we want to understand is let you know that we, Team Raj Jaggi, we're here for you as your experts, and we want to help you, guide you through this whole thing. And our job is to basically simplify your life and make sure that it's better for you in the future than it is right now. So if you're a buyer or a seller who's thinking of maybe downsizing, and you want to get into either move out of state or you want to stay in the same neighborhood and you want top dollar for your house, give us a call at 516-996-3633. Again, the callback number is 516-996-3633. Tell them you saw this video about downsizing, and we'll be giving you $1,000 free credit towards the sale of your home. Yes, you heard that right. So if you mention this video and you say you heard about downsizing from this video, we will be giving you guys $1,000 credit at your home sale, and we're going to be working with you on that. Again, this is Rahul with Team Raj Jaggi. Thank you. Looking forward to doing more stuff. And if you want this free list of downsizing questions, we can send that to you as well. Thank you.